I'm just gonna check if this is like working as well. Because when you go live, you know, it's not, you can't edit things. I don't like editing. It does take a lot of time, but yeah, sometimes you have to. Yeah, I wanted to discuss in some detail this really concerning one-sided narrative at the moment. This negativity towards Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, and yeah, Christopher Nolan's Odyssey is a really exciting event, a very exciting cinema event for all of us, and it is already getting the you know, the YouTuber kind of criticism. So a lot of content creators are against the film, especially specifically the casting. And I think that's partly because some of the cast are not what people expect. Yeah. So if you're not happy with the cast, it's probably because you have been brainwashed for many. All of us, by the way, me too. We have all been brainwashed, especially in the Western world, for such a long time, that we believe we know something about Homer and Homer's Odyssey, and we really don't have a clue who Homer was. We have been told that Homer was a Greek, a great Greek author of many works, from Homer's Iliad to Homer's Odyssey, right? This is one of the greatest books ever written, one of the greatest stories that I've ever read in my life. And I've done a lot of research on this. I would say, if we remove the Bible from this discussion today and we just focus on the greatest works that are not biblical, because obviously I have to say the Bible has had the most impact on my life, but if we were to say, what are the three most pivotal books in, you know, like Western history, right? And as far as most Western people are concerned, probably the greatest books ever written, right? That are not in any way connected with the Bible, including books removed from the Bible, yeah? And I would have to say it is Dante's Inferno for me, Goethe's Faust, and number three, I would have to say Homer's Odyssey. And I've had this opinion since I was a university student, okay? So for me, Homer's Odyssey is very important. It is a great work, but it is not, in my humble opinion, a piece of work written by a Greek person. It was written in 833 AD. Now, that means it's probably the first product of European Moorish universities. And that is a profound statement. It is the first product of Moorish universities in Europe, written obviously by Homer. Now, there are many countries on earth that have versions of this story. This is one of the most important myths and legends, this journey of a soldier returning home. So many stories mimic this plot, this narrative, and Homer was an Egyptian scribe who went to Greece. This is not many people know this, but it is believed to be the case by dozens, if not hundreds of theologians throughout the world, that this myth or this story of Homer's Odyssey is based upon ancient Egyptian texts. And the amount of parallels that I'm going to try to discuss with you, and again, this is just free talking, free thinking, right? But if Homer's Odyssey was in fact an Egyptian story written by an Egyptian brought over to Europe and written in 833, yeah, that means it was written about 100 years after the first universities were built by the Moors in Europe. This is such a fascinating timeline that I think it should make us look at this in a different way. Now, why I love Christopher Nolan is because I love his films. Okay, I have admired his films from very early on, from very early movies that he has made. I love The Black Knight. I liked his World War II dramas too. I think my favorite Christopher Nolan film was when he was, because he works with his brother, right? I would say when he, like his early work where he was really free, where there was no sort of no sort of large studios telling him what to do. I wasn't a fan of Oppenheimer. I was not a fan of Tenet. I think it was very difficult to understand what the plot was. I wasn't a crazy fan of Dunkirk. I loved Interstellar. There's such an emotional movie. I love The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight Rises, one of the first like superhero movies that became like, you know, accepted into like the upper echelons of Hollywood, right? Which again doesn't mean that much. Hollywood movies are not necessarily the best movies, but Inception was incredible. The Prestige was like a great movie. My favorite film is probably Memento. I also loved Insomnia. I thought that was like the first time I saw Robert De Niro do something that wasn't comedy, not comedic, which is quite like sad in hindsight because he only got to do that in one or two films. Like Robin Williams was never really like an actor that got a chance to do serious films. It was always like comedy, like Miss Doubtfire or a Flubber, you know, films like that. But yeah, Insomnia was a really hard to watch film, but very well acted, well shot, great film. I think Memento is my favorite because I love Guy Pearce, Carrie-Anne Moss, all of the actors in this film in that film were great. That's 2000 that was made, and it was this playing with narrative, and I think the playing with narrative is exactly what we're going to get here. The Odyssey is going to be playing with narrative. We're going to be going backwards and forwards. It's not going to be a straightforward, like conscientious desire to follow Homer's timeline. So Christopher Nolan has made incredibly great films, one of the greatest directors of his generation. If not one of the greatest directors of all time, he'd probably be in like the top 20 of greatest directors of all time. So he doesn't have anything to prove, but he is doing something incredible with his film. And everyone is against this film. Like every single YouTuber hates this movie. They're everyone. And that's worrying because we don't have any other opinions. We only have one opinion at the moment. Every single person hates the casting, hates the costumes, is against the film, hasn't seen it. Nobody's seen it. So I'm really worried here that we have some kind of narrative going on where everyone is told, you are going to hate this film. And you're going to hate this film because of the casting. You're going to pretend it's Elliot Page or some other casting that you're not happy with, or you don't think Anne Hathaway should play that role or whatever. You're going to completely despise Christopher Nolan's ability to change a story that seems quite quite sort of straightforward, and then mix it up. Do like a Quentin Tarantino Pulp Fiction style edit to the whole film, so you don't know what's what and you don't understand who's who, and it gets really confusing and convoluted and intellectualized. But what I think is really going on is that people are unhappy about the casting for Helena of Troy. And I would like to attack that. Like, I would really like to attack the fact that everyone is against this. I haven't seen a single video where someone has said, I like the idea of the film, I like the way the film looks, I like the casting. But Christopher Nolan is a man who is at the top of the pinnacle of his career. I mean, he could make a bad film and people would forget about it because of films like The Dark Knight and Interstellar, right? So I think what he's doing, and I want to believe that that's what he's doing. If he changes the casting in any way, I will lose faith in him. I really will. And I'll do a follow-up to this. But so far, so good. Like, the casting is actually pretty impressive. I'm pretty impressed. What I'm impressed about with the casting specifically is that he has chosen some of the predictable people, like the actors that everyone expects. But he's also chosen a few actors that people maybe don't expect. So this is the casting for the Odyssey. Yeah. This is going to be very interesting. Yeah, nobody's blocked. Not a single person has been blocked. Don't worry. The Odyssey. So I'm talking about the Odyssey today for anyone who's just joined. I'm very excited about this. I have to talk about this. I have so much to talk about. The Odyssey has Elliot Page. No, we don't know who she's cast as yet. People are saying Achilles could be true. I don't care about that. Yeah. Oh, MSN? Okay. I have seen about 12 different videos, and every single one of them has been negative. Message retracted. I don't know. So you're doing that yourself. You're retracting your message. Okay. Yeah. So every single video, every content creator is against the choice of casting, which means that we should not be against the choice of casting, because that's what they're told to do. Most of the content creators that criticize movies, unfortunately, they all have exactly the same. They want to please the audience and get more followers, right? That's not the way to go with this film. The mainstream opinion, they're saying it's woke and you're trying to use black actors, or you're trying to use, transgender actors. That is not what's going on here. Christopher Nolan is a genius, and he's made a decision here based on true historic research. This is not something that has been done simply without any sort of desire to be accurate or historically accurate, and simply try to be more woke and incorporate minorities, right? That's not what he's doing, and I'm going to try to explain what my theory is. We have Elliot Page, we have Matt Damon, who plays Odysseus. I think that's a good casting choice. Matt Damon is the everyman. He's the guy in all the films, right? From like Good Will Hunting. He's the guy who's like losing his job to AI, that kind of character. Really good casting, incredible actor, no problems with that. Zendaya as Athena, I think now, was the final decision, according to from May the 17th. So yeah, Zendaya is an incredible, beautiful actor. Tom Holland is Telemachus. I mean, this is obviously for teens. This is to attract the teen audience. So we have Tom Holland as Telemachus. I'm going to tell you who these characters are, what they do. And Robert Pattinson is Antonius. I think he ends up being one of the suitors to take Penelope away from Odysseus before he gets a chance to arrive back home, right, after the fall of Troy. Now, Troy As you know, I'm of the belief that Troy was not in ancient Greece, but it was actually New York City. So Troy is York, York is Troy. This is something that was covered. I've done a video on this with Guy Anderson. Troy is York. Yort was the Viking word for London. So old Troy is New York, and new Troy is old. New Troy was London, Londinium, which used to be called Jord, the capital city of Britain. So after the fall of Troy, that's when the story is set. It's a very important period of time. Lots of very important people start traveling throughout the world, settling in different places, starting up new empires that we today still call by the names that they decided or after their namesake. This is an important part of history that has just been removed. We also have John Bernthal from Punisher. He plays Menelaus. That's an important character in the film. We've got Agamemnon. Benny Safdie is playing. That's a pretty good character to play, Agamemnon. Those are obviously playing the Greeks. Then we have Mia Goth, incredibly famous teen actor. She plays Melanthro. Charlize Theron, not sure who she's playing, might be his mother. Travis Scott will be in this. That's great to see Travis Scott going into acting. Incredible musician. We got Himesh Patel, Lupita Nyong'o. Now, Lupita Nyong'o is a lot of people have said, this is not the Helena of Troy that we want. We want the kind of Helena of Troy that you got from the Brad Pitt Orlando Bloom version, right? Where you had this this Aryan Germanic sort of model actress. So Lupita Nyong'o is an incredible decision. I hope he doesn't change his mind. I hope he sticks with it. I'm very, very happy that he's picked a true Native American Trojan. This is literally what the Trojan people look like. They look like Native Americans. Now, I don't know if Lupita Nyong'o is what she thinks of her own ancestry. I have absolutely no idea, and I'm not too concerned about that because that's her personal decision to come forward about who she is or where she comes from. But as far as I'm concerned, Lupita Nyong'o is an incredibly profound decision, because now you have a little bit of truth in Hollywood, and Hollywood is this massive entity of fiction, misinformation, and lies. But now you have one little piece of incredibly powerful truth. Lupita Nyong'o playing Helena of Troy, who actually is not a Trojan. I mean, she's married. She ends up obviously escaping from her own husband, Agamemnon's brother's wife, and she ends up getting almost like it's not a kidnapping because she's willing to go. She's excited about leaving, and Paris is taking her to Troy. So she's not Trojan, but she is a Greek. She's a Greek Indian. So the Native Americans, this is very, very important. The Native American Greeks are the real Greeks. The real Greeks. Homer was not Greek, he was Egyptian. And this story is an Egyptian story about, we're going back to Native American Tamari. And this happening in this movie is almost like a just in case. It's one of these backup movies that just in case the truth one day comes out, the truth that I have been telling people now for years, that this slowly comes out, that Troy was actually New York and that York is Troy. And the Trojan, before the letter J was added to our vocabulary in the 1700s, we were talking about the Yordic people. We were talking about the Hebrews. So for the Greek Indians, and the Trojan people, who have all obviously now been removed from history. We don't know who they are. We don't know how to find them. If anyone tells you there's like a blood type or genetic, there's no such. You can't define anything without information. That is an illusion of knowledge when there is none. So Lupita Nyong'o's casting as Helena of Troy, who again wasn't a Trojan. She was Greek. She was Agamemnon's wife, right? Agamemnon's brother's wife, and who then escapes with Paris, who she falls in love with. And at the fall of Troy, Paris does not die. Yeah. So Nolan possibly was going to use. Okay, someone else. Yeah. So he may be bullied out of that decision now, but the truth is he had that plan. He had the plan to use Lupita Nyong'o for Helena of Troy, and the studios, all of the content creators on YouTube will have bullied him and pushed him out of that. But we were very close to getting, probably even if you look at Lupita Nyong'o's, like just her face, her acting, her incredible gravitas. We may have gotten an actual, ancestor of the Greek Indians. So if I hope she becomes Helena of Troy, because it might be the first time in Hollywood that we get the truth about what is Amaroka, what is America, who were the native Indians. They did not come over on slave ships. The black people in America did not come over on slave ships. They're the native people. And that was Christopher Nolan's profound, potentially still, plan at this point. I have a little bit of information I'm going to go into. We have other people like Corey Hawkins. We have John Leguizamo, incredible actor. I don't know how many films he's done. He must have done like at least 50 like great movies. It's just an incredible actor. He was like in one of Leonardo DiCaprio's first movies, like Romeo and Juliet, another story about Moorish Italy. Then we have Josh Stewart, Shiloh Fernandez. That's a great cast. William. I mean, if you have a lot of money, you're going to get a good cast. Jovan Adepo, Samantha Morton. I don't see Samantha Morton that much. It's a real shame. Like Hollywood is quite cruel to actors that become, a certain age, but they're so talented. We have lots of cool actors. Very, very exciting. I've seen almost all of these actors before. So Anne Hathaway as Penelope is pretty good. I think it's a good casting. I mean, she's at the top of her career path now. I think she's gone on from Devil Wears Prada 2 now. She's obviously mainstream. Elliot Page, I'm still not sure. I mean, some people were saying Achilles, but I have no idea. I would love to see Travis Scott getting a nice role as Achilles, because we also know Achilles was a melanated warrior. Almost all of the Trojans were dark-skinned, copper-colored, and it's just factual. Like, this was one of the first great novellas, one of the first great soliloquies, poems written within the Moorish colleges of Europe, and it was 100% based on Egypt, and we know Egypt was America. I want people to understand this theory and then go through life comparing what's going on in their world to become elite, become superhuman. Don't accept anything that you get in a movie until it is a director who's got enough money to make his own decisions and where no one can question him. I'm not saying Christopher Nolan is like knows what's going on or is doing something powerful to kind of change history, but we have to open ourselves up to the possibility that what he's doing in this film just hasn't happened before. Some of his other projects, like Tenet, were an intellectual wet dream for him, right? Nobody knew what was going on. Even now, I still have to like think about it. Okay, what's he doing with the... He loves the Roman mythological kind of context. Tenet was a Roman story. It was Roman poetry. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is... I'm talking here as... I'm getting as close to like to my truthful, honest opinion here. There's no ulterior motive. Christopher Nolan is a great director, but I'm not just here talking about a great film. I'm trying to definitely focus on something profound with him. So I have some issues with how can any of these events have happened within Europe, within Greece and Rome. I don't think these things happened in Greece and Rome. I think these things happened in the Gulf of St. Lawrence in the Aegean Sea. I think most of it happened there. I think the Aegean Sea was the Gulf of St. Lawrence because of some connections here with Lawrence, St. Lawrence, who was St. Lawrence. And then I think that Nova Scotia or the New Scotia, which is a reference to very important plot lines within the Odyssey. Now, if you look at the distance between like Troy and New York, or New York as Troy, and Nova Scotia, you suddenly get that distance and the storms and the treacherous journey. That if it was Greece, there just isn't a big enough inlet and there aren't enough islands. And I'm not sure the storms would have been enough to destroy all of the fleets during the Roman Punic Wars. So I've done a little bit of research. I think that the Gulf of Maine, yeah, DEI requirements, yeah, maybe. I mean, could Christopher Nolan pick a couple of actresses to try to push his own theories? I think he could. I think that I think he's in control of more of his movie maybe at this level now. I mean, he's obviously done some films that were 100% just the studio giving him a script and telling him this is what you have to do. But I'm really beginning to think that he's pushing a certain agenda that hopefully is getting us closer to a worldwide awakening. And I don't have faith in anything to do with Hollywood, okay? The Hollywood tree, the whole like witchcraft, I get it. But to see this in a mainstream movie and everyone turning against it could be a narrative. The narrative is he tries to put a black person into the role of an ancient black queen. Everyone's against it. And then he changes his mind and he says, look, we tried. And that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried that this is one of those things where everyone has a script and it's YouTube now, social media controlling what we watch in the movies. Because everyone is against it. All like the top 12, 13 people that I follow that are like giving information, critiquing movies, they are all against it. And they were against The Little Mermaid too, right? And I have to talk about it because this time it's too close to home. It's too close to what I've been doing, what I've been researching. I do believe that Long Island was Crete. I think that's what it was based on. I think that if America is the old world, then all these theories have to apply into the old world. And it shouldn't be difficult to find out where these places are in the United States. Because the number one problem in our modern day history is that it is all inverted, it is all lies, and we have been misinformed about everything. So that the true ancient cities can become real estate for the rich and the elites who know the truth, right? That's my belief, and I'm going to carry on with that because the Odyssey has this Native American, what I believe is a Native American princess, a Native American actress who is playing the role of a Creek Indian princess, and Troy was New York. And that's what I believe. And this is not a coincidence. This lady being in this film is not a coincidence. This is intentional. Christopher Nolan is pushing this awakening, this international, worldwide awakening, that we finally understand who these people were. Because I know who they are. I can prove it from ancient urns. I can prove it from paintings. I can prove it from even people's discussions on the topic. People have been discussing this for many years. There are many books that have been written about who was Helena of Troy. Helena of Troy was a melanated, copper-colored Creek Indian woman. This is stolen directly from ancient Moorish, stories. Homer was Egyptian. He adapted this. There are people who obviously believe that he was Greek. I don't. Based on my research, I can't say he was Greek. You would have to be you would have to literally ignore the whole Moorish invasion of Spain and Portugal and Italy and France to believe that like in 855 this was not an Egyptian inspired story. Nothing was not Egyptian inspired. Nothing was not Moorish inspired in Europe in 855. Okay, so Ithaca, I think, is actually called Ithaca. So Ithaca, the city, is actually called Ithaca, New York. Do you see what I'm saying? The cities are still there, and they have exactly the names that they should have, because Ithaca, New York, is next to New York, which is Troy, right? This is important for the story to work, for this ancient Egyptian Native American myth to work. This poem, this person returning from a war. And there wouldn't be a Great Britain if it wasn't for the fall of Troy. And I'll go into that another time. So we have Esmara, which was Montreal. We have the Cyclops, which lived in Canada. Canada, or Adanaka, was the land of giants. So when they tell you about Scotland was a land of giants and there was a wall built by Hadrian to keep those red-haired giants out because the Roman Moors couldn't defeat them, that was actually Canada, Canadia, the red leaf. You see what I'm saying? The symbolism is all there, right? So those red-haired giants were actually Canadians. And we have a lot of myths about monsters in Canada. There's just crazy. There's like hundreds of different stories about giants in Canada, even in our modern day, right? Lots of conspiracy theories. So we have Cyclops. The Cyclops lived in the Niagara Falls. People have been saying this for years. I'm not saying anything new here about the Cyclops living in Niagara Falls, okay? That is not something that I have to kind of spend too much time on, because it is well covered. We know the Niagara Falls is an ancient underground city. It's a tunnel entrance. We know that, okay? Many people, Improbable Dreamer, Autodidactic, Lunch Break. You can look at so many people have covered this. I've myself also covered it. Then we have this Michigan, which is the Adriatic Sea. So Lake Michigan is the Adriatic Sea. It's the right size to be the Adriatic Sea, and it is also in the Odyssey. It fits beautifully into the Odyssey for the man, for wisdom, various arts renowned, Long Island exercised or long exercised woes. Why is it Long Island? Well, that's a reference to the Odyssey. Yeah, so you wouldn't call something Long Island unless you were worried about a reset that would remove everyone's memory, and then at least the name of the town is still there, so you can still go back and put together the pieces, because that's what we're doing. Yeah, we have to use our intuition. It's God-given intuition. It's what makes us divine. We have to put the pieces back together and get the truth. Italy is actually Florida. So if you go to Florida, you see the Italian architecture, you see the Romanesque buildings. Even in Troy, you used to have the Victory Archway, right, in Troy. New York, you've got the ancient cathedrals in New York. You've got everything in New York. You're just not allowed to call it what it is. You have to say it's 1800s instead of, I don't know, 7th century, which is probably most of the buildings. Most of the original buildings in New York are ancient buildings. They are mud flooded. They were not built for even the ground to be at the level that it is. Okay, there are thousands of people covering this. New York, ancient city, Troy. Then we have the giants. Now the giants came from a Long Island. I don't want to say Long Island again because that's just overused. They've already called the Adriatic Sea Lake Michigan, and they've already used Long Island for Crete. So they couldn't use the name Long Island again. They did because Crete has to be differentiated from Sicily. Sicily has also stories of giants, and if you want to find out where the giants are, they were in Cuba. So Cuba is the real Sicily, the tiny little island where you have the four moorheads on the flag, right? That they moved all of that narrative so that they could control Cuba, they could own Cuba. Cuba could become a new world, no history, new real estate, beautiful ancient buildings. So it was always like Sicily was known for these beautiful multicolored stone buildings, these beautiful Italian cars, and today we call it Cuba. So Arbok, or the Arbok, was a race of great giants. In the Odyssey, it looks like, based on the trailer, they've turned these into medieval knights, which is a leaning to the Moors, because they're trying to say, oh, this is Moorish land. Christopher Nolan is trying to do that because he wants us to realize that Cuba is Sicily. I believe that. If we look at the Mediterranean Sea, it's actually the Atlantic Ocean. Simple thing. Call the Mediterranean the Atlantic Ocean, and all of a sudden, the most beautiful historic cities on earth become real estate, and nobody knows what the history is. If you look at Nova Scotia, you'll get the sirens there. So that's Odysseus, where you have the sirens. And all of this geometrically makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, I mean, you can look into it. Troy is New York. Ithaca is Ithaca in New York. I don't know why Ithaca hasn't had its name changed, but if you don't have a central point, you can't draw a picture of the whole Odyssey. Remember, the Odyssey is one of the three, I was always told this at university, the Odyssey is one of the three most important cornerstones of Western writing, one of the earliest, right? So you have Homer's Odyssey, Dante's Inferno, Faust, Goethe Faust, right? The making a deal with the devil, and then Dante's Inferno, the different like 7 levels of hell. So this is so important. Why did they not change the name of Ithaca in New York to another name, any kind of name, maybe backwards, like Akathi? Akathi would have been fine. Just the word backwards, they do that all the time. They've done that hundreds of times. I don't know why. I don't know why they made it that easy. Ithaca should be called something else, but they kept the original name of Ithaca. Ithaca, New York is the original Ithaca. Now Troy is just York backwards because the T and the K was interchangeable before the 1800s. So that's really easy. Troy, Croy. There you go. New is old and old is new because we've been inverted after the great vowel shift. Every time you hear the word great, it means the previous reset, the previous, where they destroyed all of our history so we don't know who we are. And then Greece was New England. You'll see the Creek Indian connection, Creek and Greek. The Aegean Islands was the Gulf of Maine Islands, and the Maritimes. The Maritimes was the Aegean Islands. And you can see the same architecture there. All kinds of, I did a collection of photos on what is actually going on in Maine. Like, what are the actual Italian villas next to the sea there that are ancient, with all the gods and the pan and the fountains. So that is amazing. That really fits. So Crete was Long Island, and then Italy is Florida, or the Florida Peninsula. If you look at the Florida Peninsula and compare it to Italy, it's absolutely spectacular. You will never look at America the same way again when you realize that they shifted all of removed a lot of the buildings. I mean, most of it's obviously mud flooded anyway. But if you look at like the connection there, I mean, there's a Rome in the United States. There's so many cities. It's funny. Sicily was Cuba. The Cyclops lived in the Niagara Falls. Yeah, I want to go deeper into that because Niagara Falls has so many signs of these giant doorways behind the falls. And then we have the Adriatic Sea, which is Lake Michigan, and the Aegean Sea, which is the Gulf of St. Lawrence. And then my theory is that the Mediterranean Sea is the Atlantic Ocean. And this also fits in with, like, if you're looking for Cyclops stories or inspiration for Chewbacca and different creatures. And then obviously Canada was this wild land full of giants. And then you have the Sirens, which was the offshore Nova Scotia. So the Sirens lure sailors with their song, and you actually have stories of mermaids, right, in that whole kind of area. And then the giants of Cuba, Sicily, land of the they were called what were they called in Cuba? Lestrygonians. It's very similar to the word giant, I think. And then they were also cannibals. So Cuba has that stories of cannibals, giant cannibals, who throw rocks at the ships. So yeah, super parallels there. I mean, how do you move that entire world, the entire world of like Minerva's descent to Ithaca? How do you move that entire story narrative into Europe and then pretend it was Europe? That was supposed to be an intellectual, flamboyant sort of exercise that the Moors wanted to do for fun. The Moors went to Europe in 711 AD and started building the first universities that were ever there. And it's funny because you still see that architecture today, the Arabic script. And so you can't deny that Alhambra Palace is obviously obviously comes from the Muslims, right? But that's Spain. Spain was always part of Africa. Even Portugal was part of Africa. We've just decided to change the label of things. And we shouldn't do that. If there's a big version of something and a small version of something, which one is the original? I know what the original is. The original is in this poem. If you want proof that America is the old world, this is how you're going to find it. You're going to find it in reading these poems that were written by Egyptians that went to Greece to re-educate the world. That is what you do if you're a highly functioning society. You spread civilization. Europe had no civilizations till the Moors came. And the Moors came from America. The Moors came from Africa. This is the Moorish Empire's origin. And and Troy was New York. And this casting is perfect. It's perfection. The casting is beautiful. I mean, you've got your mainstream Hollywood actors. You've got your Matt Damons and your Anne Hathaways, and everyone's happy. But then you have this one opportunity for the first time in the history of modern movie making, where you can bring a Helena of Troy from a true Native American lineage, I think, into a movie about Helena of Troy, the history of New York City. So thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, remember, you can create it if you will it, and if you resonate at the right frequency. I think it becomes really easy. But every single content creator is against this casting, and that means we should be 110% for it, because Odysseus's journey is our journey. Everything that he's tested against is one of our 7 chakras. Thank you very much for listening. Till next time, Charles Formosa, The Odyssey, Christopher Nolan.